I want to ask a question here real quick before we get too far away from it. We've referenced the new judging system and how we feel about it and everything. We threw something at Jeff Brooks on here that a suggestion of how to alter how we made it at this point of the two judge system, but not the traditional like box judge, field judge. Like I mean battery judge and front judge. You get a front ensemble specialist, you get a battery specialist. The front judge will still be able to evaluate the front to back connection, the interplay between the battery and the front from the front of the front ensemble. And then you have that battery guy who, if you're talking about safety, if he needs to just beeline it to the 20-yard line, he's going to miss a whole lot less and get involved in the horn line and guard way less to get back to the front because he's not thinking about that. He goes, oh, I have to go to the 20 for a second, and then when the horn line gets out of the way, I can get back there and I miss 20 seconds. I think that would be an amazing system. And honestly, even if you just did it for regionals and finals, like you don't do it for every show.
We talked about that years ago. That's definitely been brought up.
Yeah.
Front ensemble, and it even to the point where, okay, you just do front ensemble, you just do battery, you stay with the battery the whole friggin' show. Don't even leave the battery. Even during the ballad, kneel down with them, whatever. You stay with the battery. That's been talked about many times, and it still puts that judge on the field. The biggest issue was, where does that second judge go? Where does that pit judge go? Upstairs?
Right in front of the pit.
Either on that or
on the track, right in front of the front.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we used to have two percussion judges.
Yeah.
Back when I marched for many, many years, and they did the rotation thing. They just circled the drum line and the front ensemble at the time. So you got a more of a pure evaluation. That was also before the drills and props got to what they are today.
That
changed the activity. That changed the activity big time, right?
For sure.
I blame the cadets in the 80s for going so fast. Their fault.
Run and gun, baby.
Yeah, really.
But yeah, I think that there is a version that credits both front and battery more equal than it does right now.
Well, we've tried for decades to figure it out. I mean, I was one of the guys. I was on the task force back in the early 2000s. Me, Mike McIntosh, and Neil Larrabee. That we brought in Percussion 2. We pushed Percussion 2 through, a person upstairs that would evaluate the percussion section only, front ensemble and battery. And if the judge is back with the battery and he gets stuck back there, stay there. Safety factor, stay there. Mm-hmm. There's a guy upstairs checking out the front ensemble and everything else going on. It's okay. If the battery's back in the back sidelines during the ballad and the judge is back there, don't run through the core. Either go around the side or just chill there. We got another guy already checking it out.
Yeah.
So that was the whole philosophy behind Percussion 2, which I still think. What was the
issue?
Money.
Money?
It's all money. When you add another judge to DCI shows, and this is we did regionals later, but at the time it was every show. And you think about how many shows there are in a season, hotel, airfare, it's over $150,000 you have to add to the budget for DCI judges. So it became crazy. So we said, okay, we'll just take them in regionals. Let's do that. And I actually wrote down all my notes from our Percussion 2 friend. Because in 2008, and I don't remember what year we actually did that. I couldn't remember what year I was on the task force. I was on it too many times. But it was in the early 2000s, I believe. And then in 2008, our friend George Hopkins, he put in a rule to eliminate the Percussion 2 judge completely. Because numbers weren't working out right, and he didn't think it was a good thing. That failed, thank God. So we kept him on. And then in 2014, we saw Percussion 2 at the first shows of the year and regionals only, and there was no field judge. I don't know if you guys remember that time.
I remember that.
There was a time where the only drum judge was upstairs until like July 4th, which was a weird date.
That's rough.
And then we got to go on the field.
You might as well
but there's still just one judge.
Scores.
Yeah, there was still just one judge. And then it went on 16 Percussion 2 at every show, Percussion 1 at regionals only. So there was a judge upstairs for every show except the regionals, and then they got to be on the field for one show, which was even more stupid. And that happened again in 17, and then in 18 it was just Percussion 1 only. We got rid of Percussion 2. And here's the thing, nobody told us Percussion 2 was gone. It was never an email, a notice, a Congress, a DCI announcement. We get to the first shows and it's like, okay, who's on percussion tonight? Blah, blah, blah. Who's doing Percussion 2? There is no Percussion 2. What do you mean there's no Percussion 2?
What?
Literally, it literally disappeared.
That's wild.
And I can tell you for a fact, because I'm a stats guy, and I already had all my stats figured out for percussion one, percussion two, percussion one, for to fill in the blanks. And I'm going, what are you talking about? Nobody told us, and it just disappeared. And of course, when I went crazy and ballistic and grabbed John Phillips, who was the head of judge, and I go, what the hell's going on? What happened to percussion two? Yeah, well, the finance kicked in, and it's not going to happen. And that was the answer I got. That's the only answer I got.
Finance kicked in. But when we go to regionals, we can double up the GE panel and also double up the music analysis panel, but we can't double up the percussion panel. Even though, and I get like there are, like somebody said, like, well, the color guard. It's like, well, color guard is probably easier in my opinion. My crude opinion, to judge from a distance, like a little bit, because you can see more. Your audio doesn't matter as much, as long as like things are happening at the same time. But like the percussion realm, it's just so nuanced. And when you're trying to split hairs between these world-class ensembles,
every group is so good in those top 5-6 groups. You have to be able to get in there and evaluate that individual diddle that one person ticked. And if you're 50 yards away, it's really hard to do that.
If you're on the track in front of the speakers, you're not going to get that.
It just hearing it in general.
You have to be, to adjudicate the battery, you have to be behind the speakers.
Yep.
For most groups, if not all of them. Otherwise, you're not going to get that clarity through the stuff coming out of those speakers. You're not going to be able to hear that. So you got to get behind the speakers to even hear that stuff. And I couldn't agree with you guys more.
Maybe one day.
We could rant about that for hours, but
we had that one day, unfortunately, but now we got to get it back.
I know.
Yeah, things have changed and evolved, and some of them are great. The tick system was a thing. I don't necessarily disagree with getting rid of that. I do like the sense of like a credit system, as far as like you're rewarding things more than you are subtracting. But
build up versus tear down.
But execution does matter. Clean is the best type. Clean is forever.
That's the only way to credit the members the most. Like, if you're not crediting execution, it's a design competition.
Well, and when we got the Percussion 2 judge in there, the argument that we made that I came up with was, you can hear a great brass ensemble anywhere, right? Not just drum corps. You can hear really good brass ensembles anywhere in the world, right? You can see great dancers anywhere in the world. You are not going to get this type of percussion performance other than drum corps. It's a very specialized thing for our activity where some colleges come close, but no, they don't get into the details. They don't have the time to get into the details.
Yeah.
So you're never going to get that quality of what a DCI percussion line brings to the activity. But you can see all that from all the other captions. That's easy to find other stuff. You can see great movement on stages, but you're not going to ever get that other than the drum corps activity. So why are we screwing that up with just one judge? To me, it makes no sense at all.
I love that.
I agree.
We're going to have Mike Lightsky and Jeff Brooks and all these people back on, and we're going to challenge them. But it's not their rules. They abide to the rules that they're given, the parameters.
No, but they trust me, they agree with us. They want to be out there. They want to be out there.
I know. I've talked.
We've talked to both of them and a few others, so we're aware. But